You made it, Mr. Mott.
Yes, finally it worked. It is strange with spaces these days. Good
Yeah.
evening, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you are enjoying the Trump trial and moving forward accordingly. Strange days indeed.
Unprecedented. It's
Unprecedented.
unprecedented. Yeah, that's the word of the day.
Yep. Let's. I've not heard the latest, but I think the theatrics is looking quite good. I would say, but it's just me.
They're still deliberating. They haven't come back yet. I don't know if that's good or bad that they're taking their time.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit like with Israel. If you want to say that, it's a forever war. It's a forever
Yes.
conflict. They just want to drag it out. They just want to keep Trump busy, wasting his time, and I don't think they really have so much more to. It seems like they are. This is grasping after the. It's.
Yeah, it shows as desperate. It looks very desperate.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. Anyways, we didn't really get to the crypto AG, Ericsson, this very intense period between 1890 and 1913, you could say, and then of course we have the First World War popping up as a, well, let's call it a receipt that the ink was dried on the Fed. So I would like to put some more focus actually on let's say the Nobel family, because the Nobel family is the let's call it the ground zero for crypto AG, because they are the employing the father of Mr. Boris Hagelin. So the guy who will be probably one of the most, let's call it, important proxies for the Wallenberg family is called Boris Hagelin. He is born close to Baku in Azerbaijan today, and in a place called Hadchikent, I think. I'm not sure about the pronunciation. And he is born in 1892. And he lived a long life. He died in September 1983. And that's a pretty long life. He was the son of the employee of the Nobel family. At this point in time, the Nobel family was considered sort of the kings of Russia, or the, well, let's call it the merchant kings of Russia, or oh, I say Brian is here, Gandhi is here. Throw it on mics. So little Boris, he is growing up in a ever-changing world, you could say. A very intense, pulsating Baku. So he goes on to be educated in Sweden, in the fashionable Lundsberg school, and also that's sort of the Ivory League school of one of them in Sweden. And he also goes to the Royal Institute of Technology. You have probably heard me mention this is called KTH in short. No. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. KTH in short. The Royal Institute of Technology. And he started out at the Wallenberg business of ASEA between 1915 and 1920 as a young engineer. And for some reason, in 1921, he travels to the US and he works a full year for Standard Oil Company, meaning Rockefeller. Of course, he's not working for them in this perspective. He is talking, maybe he does. You don't know, but I think there are other things coming up. So the reason for his father, who really liked life in Baku, where he lived at Villa Petronella. This is rather fun, as in Petro, and it is a word game that Tolkien would have liked. But so he is the representative for the Nobel family running their business in Baku. But there is a revolution from the Social Democrat Bolsheviks, because they are Social Democrat Bolsheviks. So he ends up leaving Baku because Stalin, who knew about the Nobel family since way back, since 1903, 1904, 1905, even earlier, he was hanging around in Baku. So, so the Swedish oligarchs, they had both a good and a bad relation to Russia. They had a very good relation to Lenin, who actually is of Swedish heritage, believe it or not. The Swedes were very active in the 1900th century in Russia for many reasons. The Nobel family, even when St. Petersburg in this oil boom were growing as well. It's not even close to Azerbaijan. It's more south. No, not more south, more west. Sorry. So, they have their own, like a block, and even more, with their own schools, manufacturing, more or less police and so on, also in ever-growing St. Petersburg. So at this point in time, we have the very, let's say, what's this called? Sorry, bad English. Very expansive. Expansive NGO thinking, and the League of Nations is formed, and there we have the good old Jan Smuts and writing the doctrine. We have the Nansen passports and everything. All of this done in order to set up the stage for the Bank for International Settlements. So everything is prepared for that. The Bank of International Settlements is formed by a treaty where, of course, the Wallenberg family and the other oligarchs are involved in a way. But Wallenberg is the sort of the architect. And they will put their man in place, or actually times 2, times 3, times 4. But in 29, the man that really runs it is called Per Jakobsen. He is a Swedish guy with a long list of let's call it nefarious actions, but not visible. He's a hidden hand. He he is also a we could call it an infiltrator into the Krieger. He has double seats at this time. So suddenly in 1930 he enters the Krieger Empire, which will be hijacked, stolen, whatever, after Ivar Krieger will, in some strange way, kill himself, allegedly, with a broken hand and shooting himself with the wrong hand in the chest, all alone in his hotel room, after he has managed to provide a substantial amount of money, which could have put some relief on the German government, as a loan without any interest, and he was also forming businesses all over Germany to get Germany out of its deeply, let's call it that for the everyday German, this period after the First World War is very, very rough. For the IG Farben, everything is going 200 kilometers an hour and moving forward. But the average German didn't really get any benefits from that. The Warburg Bank, the IG Farben is expanding, but still the German workers are suffering. It will be better, of course, as soon as the little guy with the mustache enters the scene with the unlimited checkbook. Suddenly Germany goes to prosperous mood over just a few it doesn't take, it's more or less a year. It goes from quite put down. And you have all of this, the kind of strange expressions for this in Berlin, which is pretty decadent, and so on in the 1920s and so forth. So at this point in time, the crypto AG is formed out of as a proxy for the ASEA, the Wallenberg company, ASEA crypto department, where Boris were working until 1920. Then he goes to meet Rockefeller for a year. Also maybe meet the, what later on will be the NSA, the OSS, and so on. Who knows? This is hidden, but for sure he had a task. So Boris enters the family business, so to speak, the Hagelin family's business. And in the year of 32, just as Ivar Krieger is out of business forever, and his business is stolen, hijacked, whatever we can call it, by the Swedish government and the Swedish other bankers, they slaughtered it, claiming it was. And Per Jakobsson is actively in this as well, we could assume, since he was working with the Krüger finances as well as the BIS, which is quite strange actually, but he is an important player. You really should consider. Not visible, and he will stay at the Bank for International Settlements until 1950 something, 56. Maybe it was in connection to the Bosch affair he left there. He's also, let's not jump ahead in time here. So,
Matt, I think Ryan has a question.
Oh, hi Ryan. You're welcome.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, how's it going? I'm doing pretty well. Hey, Ma, I hope everything's good with you, buddy. Fascinating that you're touching this topic, man. It's awesome. I just wanted to throw in, in 1940, I don't know if you heard about this, you probably have, when Germany invaded Norway, Hagelin traveled to the U.S. and he connected with the U.S. supervisors and officials, and he actually got rid of 140 units. And this is what kind of tied together, him and this company with the Central Intelligence Community. So I just wanted to make that point before you got further past 1940.
Yep, exactly. And I think he set the relations as early as in 21, when he was over with the Rockefellers. This is planned. This is seriously planned. So his mission is to be a proxy for Ericsson and ASEA. ASEA's crypto department / Ericsson, same. At least after 32, when Krüger is gone. So in 32, the prior brainiac, a gentleman named Dam, he sort of halfway left the company, and they rebooted it, the Hagelin family business, in 32, and it's called then more or less engineering technology Inc. Yeah, it translated.
Technic, AG Technic, right?
Yeah, AB Ingenjörsfirman Teknik. That's Teknik AB. So, yeah. So, and prior to that, the Nobel family was part owners in the Hagelin business. Yeah. And in 1940, same year as Ryan is mentioning here, they changed the name to AB, which means incorporated, AB Crypto Technique. The thing that is happening in between here, which I don't know even if I've written about it. I'm checking my own article here. The thing that happens in between is quite funny, because funny, I don't know if it's funny, but suddenly when the company is not crypto yet, but this is a story. Ericsson phones him up and say, well, if the French army calls you up, just take the order. We will help you out. I don't know. This is just a telltale, but for 5,000 units, and prior to that, they have sold just a few. not so many actually, but they had the technology. They were top-notch technology due to their relation with Mr. Dam, who was a real brainiac. And these guys were all, they were really good engineers as well. So he gets this order. This is kind of 1930, quite early 30s, and the business is, gaining speed. So as we enter, even before it breaks out, for some reason, Hagelin moved the crypto technique business to Switzerland. And he brought all the stuff there. And so in 38, they changed name again to Crypto AG, which will be sticking for a long, long, long time. Let's see if we can find. I wanted to see if I could find his friendly man at the NSA. So a little bit of a background as well to this, which is maybe not so known. The Hagelin, the Hagelin, the older, the father, Carl Wilhelm, not Kaiser Wilhelm, but Carl Wilhelm. As we said before, he was working for the Nobels and so on. So he teams up with Arvid Dam, Mr. Dam, the brainiac, and this is, I don't know when it was, like in early 1920s. Yes, early 1920s. I had to back check myself there. And Carl Wilhelm actually longed back to he had a dream of going back to Baku. He liked it there. I don't know why, but anyways, the Nobel brothers were involved, of course, in that business. So we are establishing that the Nobel family is there as well. And of course, the ASEA crypto department and all this prior to we are getting into the real deal, so to speak. I just want to hyper emphasize that because the Nobel family is quite important. Then they just, not disappear, but they will take more of a backseat role, so to speak, in all of this nefarious business. I made a very long article about the Nobel family because they are quite interesting, and that is as in the Nobel Prize, that family. If somebody new is listening in, so we are getting to the and these are helped out by both the Wallenbergs. They have the business together with them, and also a gentleman who's called J.W. Smith, which is the beneficiary of Alfred very much with his dynamite, which is of course a success. But the Nobel family has they are weapons guys, and Russia. They are very focused on Russia on in the 1900th century, and they are building their business in Russia, more or less. So this is sort of the build up for it, and I don't know really how to put it, but the let's see. They actually had one company. I'm just gonna check this out, so I'm not saying anything. The limited company Cryptograph, this is the first one, was founded the 21st of July 1916 with a share capital of 85,000 crowns. The purpose was to develop and sell crypto machines based on Arvid Dam's patent and ideas. The company produced mechanical and electromechanical machines with a qualified encryption for the time. And this is the base case for these Enigma machines. So this is through and through and a Swedish endeavor, which is also doing the manufacturing of this, which is quite important. So when they're booming and blustering here, of course, the deal in the US between Hagelin and I can't remember his name now. I'll see if I can find it. I have been written about that as well, but I can't remember where I have it. But at some point I will find it out. When this blows up, because we have, as far as I can recall, we have US through the NSA listening into everything. I think the Germans as well, of course, the BND, and they are working together with this. This is after the war. Prior to the war, it was the US. And the Swedes are rarely mentioned, but they, of course, are holding the keys to this and are sort of the spy central of the Second World War. So the creation of Gladio project is a copy-paste of what the Nazis were planning to do. It fell short because of lack of will or other issues. They were planning on staying behind their front lines and doing sabotage and so on, even after they were. But it fell quite short. I think the motivation, even among the SS people, were maybe not so high at that point in time. So, but the plans and the actors were, of course, involved in this. So, and here we are coming to this. These machines were used pretty much by all military, including the Russian, because everybody sort of trusted that they bought real coded machines. And the Russians were the first ones to double decode because they did not really trust. Stalin didn't really trust the machines. He know these Nobel and Wallenbergs and so on. He knew them. He knew, maybe not in person all of the time, but he knew who they were. The Nobel family, for sure, he knew because he was doing his like the Bolshevik thing in Baku, protest and union kind of stuff, and the Social Democrat game for quite a few years actually in Baku and surroundings in this region, Russia. So he met them in Baku, and were trying to halt the businesses there, and they were doing, before he and Lenin mostly was pinpointed, hired in to do the Russian Revolution, the one that succeeded in 1917. Prior to that, Mr. Trotsky did a run for it, so to speak. He tried to get a revolution done in Russia as well. So he failed. Went on boot camp to the Rockefeller estate and met people there, and Lenin and Stalin are going forth and back and to Sweden and other countries, and the connection is established pretty much for these activities even before the year of 1900. So these guys are getting a good opportunity to try to overtake and throw the Tsar family off the power in Russia. Of course, as per usual, the aim of this is to get.
Oh my, we got Ryan up again.
Ryan, sorry. Okay. Go ahead.
Again, Ryan.
Is the guy's name David Chaum that you're talking about at the cryptographer that was involved in that? Or were you talking the American computer scientist? Or are you talking about somebody else?
The NSA guy, because they formed a personal relationships. They were really they became friends over these years. It is probably him. I have forgotten the name. I'm so sorry, but
Okay,
could you repeat it?
No. It's David Chaum, Chaum.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. That sounds familiar. Yeah. That is a lifelong friendship between him and Boris. As far as I know, and he was most likely the one who also set up the manufacturing of these machines in the US, in New York, actually, of all places, during the early 1930s, I would say, that as far as I can remember. So there is no doubt about who is. These machines are even on display on in the U.S. war museums and so on. So this is nowadays open source information, more or less. And of course, the whole Gladio operation, and later on as well, but after the scandal, where actually I think it was the Egyptian or people, maybe somebody working for the Egyptian intelligence services that actually decoded that it was a backdoor in the machine. And sort of, wow, what is this? The Russians already did it early on, but they didn't say anything. They just because they were listening to by something is called Stella Polaris, and that is the Finnish, having the border to Russia. They were listening into the radio comms, and of course, they had these machines, so they had the backdoor into the Russian communication, which of course was very in handy, and this was documented, of course, and this is where Patton ends up, where they have this kind of archives at the a Swedish blue blood, you could call him. He is called his name is Carl Bonde. He actually is from a king. He's related to a king back in the day, early kings in Sweden, but he's probably related to him as far as I can reckon. So this is where Patton gets some information, and then he goes back to Germany, and somebody is trying to assassinate him. He miraculously survives, and also he's getting well, but suddenly he's getting very, very sick in the hospital and dies, which is quite strange. So, but we can speculate on it and so on. And allegedly, he had besides his wife, he had another woman mourning him, and I think she actually killed herself back home in the US. That allegedly were very friendly with Mr. Patton during the war, and she had a son, allegedly, at least what we can know. I'm not saying more than that, but speculations are always speculations. But she existed and she had a son. That is as far as I can tell, a legitimate story. So now we are done with the Second World War. We have McKittrick leaving the Bank for International Settlements. The Bretton Woods is in place. Per Jacobson is still there. Oh, I can say that. Thank you, Secretary. And at this time, the IMF is also formed. And
Kelly, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'd like it if Mark could please touch on bonds, on United States bonds, like war bonds. When did that start, and how did that go down, and how did that tie in with the international bank and well, everything, Mark, please, if you don't mind taking explaining it.
we'll get to the bonds. Ryan, go ahead.
That'll take a while to explain all that, right, Ma? Because it's a lot
I
of
can't
material.
hear Ryan. Please, Tisha, will you drop me down and pick me back up?
Oh, of course.
I was gonna mention in I believe it was 1950, right? When the Hagelin basically had no control, say, over the company anymore, and the U.S. and the CIA basically had control, and they were, keeping the superior products for themselves and selling the inferior products to other countries. So I believe that's what was happening, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's correct. They sold thousands and thousands and thousands, and Ericsson's factories, were developing together. So this is an Ericsson thing as well, in the shadows, but they were doing it, especially in the early days, and then they formed maybe some new subsidiaries, secret factories, all of this. It's lots of hush business. But all the intelligence services were using this, and they had backdoors in them from the get-go. So it's more or less the Swedes and the US. Some other countries are allowed into that sort of, what will become the Five Eyes a little bit later on, are allowed in to share this information, and also then knowing that there are backdoors.
Real quick, I forgot the BND too. The CIA and the BND was the ones that had control over it.
Yeah, and they also were, the oligarchs keep the control. The intelligence services are dependent on the oligarchs, but officially, and as soon as the war is finished, the good old Nazi, the oligarch servant Reinhard Gehlen is taking over for the BND. So he's just back in business, but doing it for more or less for as a subsidiary to the CIA, and the oligarchs as well. So these guys, and all of this time, this kind of manufacturing, ASEA, Ericsson. All of this story is very, very hidden. It's just crypto AG, and it has no history. It's deeply rooted in the Nobel and the Wallenberg families, and they are involved sort of all along. And the move to Switzerland is, of course, brilliant because it sort of distances it, and it looks like it is a Swiss company. But as we all know, Sweden and Switzerland, they go together. They are the two neutral countries chosen to be so in the peace treaties of Versailles 1814, 1815. So this is really nefarious because they listen in to everybody, and this continues a very long time until the lid pops, and then the CIA and the BND has to take the blame for it.
Hey, Ma, you know what's interesting? You mentioned Sweden and Switzerland. When Hagelin, after World War II, he actually went back to Sweden and then had to leave there. In 1948, he went to Switzerland. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. He is a Swede, through and through. But he probably just went back to Switzerland to keep on with the company. But he had some troubles actually. I can't remember what it was.
I have it written down. Hold on.
It's shocking this old date so far back.
Well, it's not so far. It's the the beginning of the 20th century. So it's not so far away. It's not like the East India Company or the Longobards. So, but in order to make all of this work, we need, the oligarchs need to get the control and of the central banking system. So the BIS will tie into they of course also are using this kind of enigma machines and so on to communicate. But I'm so, and this goes on well into the 1980s. So before it's the scandal is let's call it the lid is blown on this. Exposed, and then the BND and the CIA will have to take the blame for this, and Crypto AG is also just disappears out through the back door. It is a history not written.
I can't find that about Sweden, why he had to leave. Right, you're right though. He did get into some there was something with the law or something, and he couldn't get around something.
Yeah,
I forget what it was.
Yeah. I can remember that he got into some legal stuff and had to retreat again to Switzerland, and actually his son was dedicated to take over Crypto AG. And that's when the CIA and the BND stepped in as actually owners. They actually had, they were not just in control. They actually had to step in as owners. And then it was not far away until the lid was popped, or this this whole operation was exposed, as said. There are some names to be considered here when you see them or hear them. And the countries active here, of course, now then in the later stages of the Crypto AG, and and Gladio is running on this. This is their source of information. This is how it's done. So the whole Gladio operation is dependent on the Crypto AG. No doubt.
Hey, Mott, since you just touched on how the BND and the CIA took over, that kind of leads into Operation Thesaurus, doesn't it?
Exactly. That was the name. And that was later on renamed to Rubicon. As in the river Rubicon, the point of no return. From the Greek mythology. Not from the Greek mythology. It's from Caesar. So in the 1980s, it was renamed. Early 80s, I think, to Rubicon. I don't know why they changed the name, but it's called Thesaurus from the beginning. And this is now then the forming, the settling of the Five Eyes countries. And that is US, UK, Canada, Australia, and, believe it or not, New Zealand. And that is the only countries that have access to this, to the back doors. Everybody else, running around and think they are coded. No. And of course, then
they're being spied on. They're being spied on.
Yeah. It's very, very obvious. So, it says here that this is not really true. I'm reading a little bit from the article I brought up here that that is sort of true, but it depends on neither China or the Soviet Union, and that is correct, because Russia was Russia before the forming of the Soviet Union. They never bought crypto devices, the Crypto AG devices. But they were in over 100 other countries, army, intelligence, and embassy, probably a bit of banking as well. So there is...
Go ahead, Ryan. You got a question, Ryan?
I'm sorry to keep cutting you off. I have an actual question this time. I've never knew if you about this, if it's true or not. So maybe you have more details. The Chilean president Allende in '73, was he really killed due to Crypto AG, and as well as the exploitation of human rights in Argentina back in 1970, or is that just some kind of story that was made up and kind of put the blame on Crypto AG, or do you not know anything about that?
I would say due to there could be reasons that they were, finding out that they were listening into. So it could be under. I know one of these killings, murdering, whatever, where Crypto AG was mentioned, several times. I can remember that, so I know what you are talking about, but I cannot tell. I simply do not know. But maybe they were sort of getting into it. Maybe somebody were, that could have been an earlier discovery of the nefariousness of these machines. that could of course easily call out the CIA or any of the Five Eyes countries or or NATO people to go in and kill somebody if there is if their whole information system, depending on this Swedish machine, I would call it Swedish or Swiss, it doesn't really matter. They of course will protect it by any means necessary. That is for sure.
Thank you.
I have a little story to tell. When Thesaurus / Rubicon were actively in all of these 100 countries and so on, there is a Camp David meeting with Carter, Sadat, and a gentleman named Meshem Begin. And they were trying to make Egyptian-Israel peace deal. This is after the war between Egypt and Israel, or well, at the not at the peak of it, but I think it's sort of after. And the thing was that of course, the US could read all the Sadat communications with his home base, so to speak, because he was using crypto machine. So, crypto AG machine. And I think there were some discussions about it because, it was at that point when this happened. I think Sadat mentioned that he could not he could not believe that the Americans knew everything before he even knew it. He said some things about this. I can't remember, but Iran also used this, of course. And the NSA was helping out on the revolution, of course, as per usual, Operation Ajax in 1953. I don't know if they were using them back then, but when John Foster, I think, is actually responsible for the Operation Ajax earlier on in Iran. And Iran is always on the topic. Even here in Sweden today, there is claims that Iran is using the Swedish gangs for nefarious activities and so on. Very strange days indeed. Especially since the same people at this ASEA, later on ABB, that manufactures these crypto machines in the beginning of it, in the early beginning, where they have their roots with Arvid Dam's inventions, caught into the ASEA company later on. So ABB company is, and ABB Atom, meaning nuclear in Mororia. They are the guys that is selling the nuclear equipment to Iran. That kind of nuclear equipment that is very handy when you're going to manufacture nuclear bombs. So that could be noted that that was on that also goes for ABB Atom selling the same kind of equipment to North Korea. And at that point in time, actually, Donald Rumsfeld is sitting on the board and making this deal with North Korea. This is back in time, but when it was not Kim Jong-il, it was his father who was the ruler of North Korea. So kind of strange that the Swedish company is providing that not so strange actually, since it's the same guys, same family that provided both the Nazis and the Manhattan Project at the same time with useful things for that kind of nuclear stuff. The nefarious side of it, not the good side of it, but it's sort of the same. So the girl lady who solves the riddle of how to explode a nuclear device, she's actually sitting in a Wallenberg factory called Ljungaverk here in Sweden, or actually Svenska Fosfatfabriken, which is the Swedish phosphate ink, you could call it, where she has undercover some kind of research, and there she decodes and finds out how to explode a nuclear device and sends this to her friends already in place in the Manhattan Project. And from there on, it's Oppenheimer and Manhattan, but this is official, this is in the archives, but this is not how the history is presented to us. And they were doing the same things with Germans as well. So she was from the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, but they took care of her and some others. Her scientist colleague Otto Hahn, he actually received the Nobel Prize for this. Lise did never achieve that or receive the Nobel Prize, but she was instead, since she was in Sweden, she was actually sort of a lifetime employee at the Nobel Foundation, the Nobel Prize Foundation. So she was taken care of as well. So, and she continued on with that kind of research and so on, and also we're in Sweden and building some A-bombs and also some nuclear power plants, the early test things in the 1950s and so on. So that is the true story about the Manhattan Project and how to explode a nuclear bomb. It's solved by Lise Meitner. She actually went to the US and visited her friends and of course then Einstein and Oppenheimer and these guys just after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So she made a tour of the universities and visiting the Oppenheimer team. Quite interesting.
Ryan, did you have something to add, Ryan?
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask Mark. Have you heard of Galen Windsor? Guy who eats uranium and stuff, and it does nothing to him, and how basically uranium, plutonium, all these things, are not harmful to the body. As well as when you look at Nagasaki and Hiroshima. I mean, when I look at that, that was a firebombing, in my opinion. I don't think, when they tell us about nukes and atom bombs, I think it's more fear porn than anything. I don't think there's radiation that happened in Hiroshima because you got even Jesuit priests saying it was a rumor. You got Jesuits and Franciscan priests that were 2 miles from ground zero and their churches never got hit. You got just a bunch of things when you look at the photos and stuff. So I don't know. I'm not sure if nukes are a hoax or they're just something different than what they tell us.
Well, they are different than they tell us. I'm pretty sure about that. And there are two different. The modern variant. It is not at all as they were in the beginning. So the radiation, it have gone from 1 million years to 10,000 years to 100 years and so on and so forth. So we are not being told the truth, that is for sure. But they really go bang. That is for sure. They really go bang. They can destroy a whole lot. The Satan II missiles these days in the hands of the Russians are said to be able to wipe out as large territory as Texas, one of them. So that is maybe a bit of fear porn, but they and as per usual, of course, the Swedish companies are providing critical equipment and parts for this to the Russians.
Hey, you know what would be crazy if just like all these like weapons that are in there, just like all duds and stuff, and they're just like messing with our heads straight up. They're just like, yeah, we're just gonna say we spent all this money on like nuclear weapons and bombs and stuff, and they're just straight all duds. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to pull something like that and pocket the money. But yeah, you're right. I'm not saying there isn't radiation when it comes to uranium and plutonium. There's a radiation is given a bad name, and it's really not harmful, that type of radiation that comes from plutonium and uranium.
Actually, I usually refer to Lise Meitner, who were sitting with this kind of stuff. She got old. She was never sick or whatever. She lived a long life. And for sure, she was exposed to the uranium and so on and so on and so on. So we are not told the truth. That is for sure. And let's hope that this kind of the weaponized part of the uranium that is not used. It is not a military weapon. It's a scare weapon. You could say. We discussed this the other day in a space as well. So fresh discussion about that. So, but we as you can see, there is an oligarchy paw here, always an oligarchy hand in all of this. And that goes for the Gladio operations as well, of course. And as I said, the core of the Gladio is the crypto AG. And later on, of course, Ericsson and their global dominance of information. So it is, it's just a prolonging. It's the same entities. So, and this is what is missed out by many. This is not they never opened that door. The one that we are opening here today in this space. So I'm thankful that we could just go quite slowly through this and just pinpointing out that there would be no Gladio if it wasn't for that. There would be very little. Let me put it this way. Turn it around, do a 180 on it. If the ones with the information control, and these days where everybody uses phones, if the ones that are sitting on would there be any child trafficking and so on if somebody actually could control all the information? See what everybody's doing.
Certainly there would be, because they're the ones that are doing the child trafficking. They're the ones that are using the children. Sorry, X won't let me put my hand up. But did anybody else notice what happened to the room when you were talking about nukes?
Yes, it just cleared out.
And then
with the one word,
back
yeah.
up. So I'm just curious if
I saw them all pop out at the same time.
That's crazy. All right, thanks.
It was right after the word. You're right. Dia Prezzo, do you have a question?
Yes, family. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
How's everyone doing? The space is phenomenal. I always like to co-sign when I hear sensible people that may be called detractors or, crazy or conspiracy theorists. So I just wanted to support it with. I sent it to the host directly to your DM. If you would take the post that I put, so you can see directly that in fact it is the government, right? The top of it says We are the people. And it says we are the enemy right at the top. And then there's about, I believe, like 12 bullet points. And I promise you, every single individual in this space fits one of those bullet points. So what you discussed about keywords, I put a couple of Alphabet Boy documents in there. One is called uh, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. This is this type of warfare that we're under right now. Now, as you'll see, that document is from 1979, and it says at the beginning, I'd like to thank you for 25 years anniversary. Yes. Oh, share, please, baby man. I'm with you out there, man.
Oh, beautiful.
So the other document in there is a classic letterboy document that says, in fact, basically, if you want to surmise it and put it in layman's terms, proof that they are in fact looking for mutants. They're looking for people with extra abilities. Again, it's documented. It's a redacted document. I don't know where it came from, right? It's August 1973. And it says right there, so these documents come out of an older document to support everything you're saying called Operation Mockingbird and Operation Paperclip. So, in fact, what you said about the nukes being fake, all of it is fake trash. If it's ever come on the television, it's garbage, right? The moon landing, I'm not saying that 9/11 didn't happen, but we know the narrative, are you following me, is different. I'm not saying just like Kanye, slavery didn't happen. What I'm saying is, in fact, the narrative that we've been taught is a lie, right? And if you want to get to the gist of these lies, these people spend a lot of time writing down and documenting exactly what they're going to do to us. If you listen to Andrew Tate, like he says, what is the characteristic of these devils in Satanism? They say if we do it to them and they allow us to do it to them, then they want it, right? Like if I give you some poison and you just eat it, then I murdered you. But if I give you poison and I say, look, this is poison, then you committed suicide. That's what they're doing to us right now, family. They're giving us food, literally, food, drink, water, education, if you want to call it that, all poison, all bad, all terrible. But if you take it, then that means what? That we're accepting of it, we're acquiescing of it. And again, I just wanted to share
Compliance.
those compliance, exactly. And that's exactly why I wanted to share those documents. So if you would take your time to look at it and then know everything you're saying. I'm gonna look at the people are the enemy. The first bullet point, it says military veterans, right there. It's telling you who they think the enemy is. And it also calls us crazy and violent for having a belief in God. The last one here, it says patriot movement, a term used by, they call us right wing. So if you have morals and you have values and you have standards, then you're a right wing extremist. And you're also part of a Christian patriot group, right? Or you're a constitutionalist. So if you say the word constitution more than 7 times on Twitter, I just want you to know you're in a file and it's all documented right there. Now, how does this not come out? There's one more document that I didn't post. And I don't like keep posting the same things over and over, but certain things are that important that we need to cover them over and over and over so we can know how to combat them, which is HR 4310, 2012, Obama, when he said, I'm going to repeal the Smut Act of 1948, making what? The propaganda exactly that you're discussing right now, fake Hiroshima, fake 9/11, all be allowed because of a document like that. And now they can double down on it. So if you think the Patriot Act was one thing, House Resolution 4310, which became, in fact, the called the Freedom Act in 2013, which was full blown Patriot Act on steroids. So these documents prove that not only they're studying us, they're sampling our blood and our children's blood, right, at the hospital, at Planned Parenthood, and using it for things. They're looking for DNA genetic codes, some of the topics that Terrence Howard are covering right now. They've been looking in our blood. That's why they take your the woman's placenta and all of that. It's not just going into the trash, family. The same disgusting things that Planned Parenthood do with it, and I mean every single hospital is a part of.
Be-
So this runs a lot deeper
believe it or not,
than
Mr. The Oppressed, believe it or not, but the Planned Parenthood thing, it origins back here in Mordor, aka Sweden. As per usual, that goes for the social security numbers, we being numbered, and so on. You know, chattel. Maritime law is older than that, of course, much older, but the numbering origins from that activities as well. Soros is run by Sweden. Antifa is for sure created by Swedes. They were even thrown out of the US when they were creating the US Antifa side of it. If we're going to take something that is, that is really Swedish from the get-go. So lots of nefarious stuff. We back here in Mordor, in the neutral forest where Bombadil can not be touched, in his blue jacket and his yellow boots. We have maybe, possibly, or actually most likely, the world's most indoctrinated people, and we are, of course, used as guinea pigs for all nefarious stuff that will come later on down the road, such as Islam was tried out in Nigeria a little bit when it first surfaced, but here it's been for a quarter of a century already.
That's Christian and Muslim together.
Yeah, Islam. It's one world religion goes hand in hand with the globalist thing, isn't it?
Right.
So yeah.
We have a few hands, Mott.
Yeah, let's
I
go to
think
the
it was
hands.
Ryan first. Ryan?
Well, you could have went to anyone. That's fine. Thank you, Miss Tisha.
Sorry, I didn't see
No,
who went
you're all
first.
right.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I won't be taking
It's
just a
Ryan for
moment of
sure. Ryan, go ahead, man.
No, good, bro.
Can
Good,
you
bro.
hear me?
Tisha, you can't hear Brian, I think.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Okay.
Yeah,
You can hear me, Miss Tisha?
I can hear. Yes, I can hear you, Ryan.
Okay,
Too.
absolutely. I'm sorry. I'm
Let-
standing in the store.
I can't.
I wanted to ask, Mott, did you see that AG Mortgage Investments has joined the Russell index, the Russell 3000 index?
No.
Yep.
No,
2
no
days
clue.
ago. Yeah. They joined
I'm
2 days ago. I've got the report. Oh my God. It's yep.
I'm counting. I'm counting on you for acquisitions and mergers. It is a hell even trying to keep up with the history when it goes for this. The book of the Wallenbergs were written, and their nefarious actions during the Second World War was written by 2 Dutch gentlemen that found this out because their Dutch bank were involved in this as well. And they called it the art of cloaking. It's proxy upon proxy upon proxy upon proxy, but they never lose the control. This is also how they form, and that they are spearheading the Bank for International Settlements. These guys, they really know what they're doing. And as you can see up in the Jumbotron, there is an article of the protege of Marcus, the older Wallenberg, well, let's call it the most nefarious of them, you might say, at this point in time, at least. There are a couple of brothers and a father and so on. So this is the father at this time, and he's really into it and forming the Bank for International Settlements. And during all of this kind of, they have all of these different forums where they meet the bankers and the politicians and so on, and he's steering this with the iron hand, the reforming of the banking system. and he succeeds with this. And McKittrick, which is key person here, Thomas McKittrick, a friend, childhood friend of the most nefarious Dulles brothers, which of course are the very good friends of the Wallenbergs. He writes a letter to he really adores or admires and all the things he learns from Wallenberg during this time. Hello, little darling.
Diop,
Off your mic's
I
open.
know.
yeah, Diop, your mic is open.
I know. It's nap time.
Yeah. It's hard to hear anything else.
Let me mute it.
Oh.
I got the mic. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's no problem. Yeah, I put the in the pill and up top the bill for the propaganda HR 4310. So if anybody wants to read it, they can. Just to substantiate that claim. But you mentioned admiralty law earlier, and I think it's important to realize, guys, that admiralty law and maritime law aren't the same thing. They're two different things. And like maritime law is under admiralty law, and then above that is actually the law court of merchants. So there's a bunch of different court systems, and yeah, people like a lot of people like to say admiralty law and maritime law are the same thing. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point. What else did I want to say? I think that's it. I kind of forgot what else I was gonna say, but yeah, I actually got to get going, guys. So grateful so much. Thank you, Tish and Mott, for holding this space, especially on this topic. Nobody talks about it, and yeah, man, I just love that you're able to remember all these things and put it together so well, Mott. So thank you so much for your research and everything that you do. And everybody else, peace and blessings. You have a great day.
God bless Ryan.
God bless Ryan. Thank you. And thank you for your kind words, sir. And of course, the secretary, she puts it all in writing. So we have all the articles we need and putting them up in the Jumbotron, doing a great work. So thank you, secretary, for that.
Mott, Kelly's got her hand up. Maybe it's a good time to reset. Would you guys mind retweeting the room, please? And if you have a question, please request a mic.
I just have
a
statement.
Put it up in the algorithm. Go ahead, Kel.
And I'm just so damn frustrated I can't see straight because I can't hear Ryan anytime. Like every time he goes to talk, everything goes dead, and I can't even hear Mott. And I feel like I'm being picked on. I don't like being picked on, but
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, and like I can hear when you like turn your mic on for a second, turn it back off. But I didn't want to interrupt because like obviously it was pretty interesting because he was going on. But anyway, just y'all be brave. And Ma, you're so brave because I know you must get so much flack. I live on the same property my family bought in 1803, and no one but my family has lived here. And we were a plantation. We were a massive plantation, and so I have lots of stories. And I'm not allowed to tell my family stories. If I try to tell them, I get shot down and called names and treated so freaking bad. And it's so sad because it's part of American history. We're a century pioneer farm family, and we built this area. And it has to be, this big secret that yeah, we own people, but they owned us right back, and they live right up the road, and we're friends. And I go to the church that we gave them, and it's so frustrating to know how effective propaganda is. It's just really scary. I just had to say that. Sorry.
You want me to drop you, Kelly, and bring you back up?
Yeah, please, because if Mott said something, I can't hear him. I can't hear.
Okay.
Like put me in my little bubble, y'all ex fuckers. Pardon my French, anyhow.
Well, the spaces have really been acting up these last days. With that said, quick room service then. Please, if you are enjoying this space, share it, retweet it, DM somebody because we are probably suppressed. So when you share this space, it will not pop up on the timelines as or not getting high up in the flow. That is for sure. And if you are new to this space, please keep your hands and your feet within inside the space wagon, because the ride can get a little bit bumpy at some times. And if you are not belted and keeping your hands inside the space and feet inside the space wagon, you might get a little bit damaged. You never know, because we try to provide some really good history information and putting things together, how it was or why it didn't, or how we ended up where we are. So please share, retweet. You can do it down in the purple pill. You can use that to send it, or you have the little dots on top, or even if you are running on a PC, you have a little direct share button there, more or less. So please do so. And with that said,
Brian's got his hand up, Mark.
Yeah, Brian? Let's go to Brian.
All right. I'm going to absolutely enjoy. I'm going to try my best to get into this conversation with you. I just got off work. I'm on my way home. I'll be there in like 5 or 6 minutes. But looking at the futures race, and forgive me for the background noise, but looking at the futures race, recent acquisition, I seen ConocoPhillips has acquisition taken over Marathon. I think between Chevron Hess and what OPEC's doing, between Chevron Hess and the ConocoPhillips, merger, acquisition of Marathon.
Yeah.
I think we've got maybe another year of watching the commodity known as gas go up.
Probably. I'm not sure, because it all starts and stops with there will be a big swing in all of this when in October, when the BRICS countries officially just will ditch the dollar, and they will do it like it's planned, it's settled, it's a done deal. And so now we're just waiting for that. And of course, it's timed on just prior to the president election. So I think the Fed dollar is living a dangerous life. I can't tell, but for sure it's pointing in a certain direction. There could be some turbulences in all kinds of markets, but we can see lots of positioning, lots of people, high-ranking vice presidents, and so on. They are just leaving now, and it's a large cleaning up operation. You could call it within the, let's say, the big companies. That is for sure. So
the timing of this space is unbelievable. Go ahead, Brian.
I'll be pulling up at my destination in just a moment. Let me park. Give me just one moment. I'm coming right back.
Take care, Brian.
Don't.
No worries. So, getting into, let's call them, we have a couple of guys here. You heard me mention it before. Makichuk has his own there. That's good article. We have a couple of let's call them the original economical hitman, and that is this Per Jacobsen, a friend of the Wallenbergs, of course. He is the BIS, more or less. You could say he is like the hidden hand of the BIS, and that has to count for being more or less the most the most prominent economical hitman ever. And you will never heard about him. That's the point of it. So, besides his duties at the BIS from 1929 to 1956, that's he had also quite let's call it he was decorated the Swedish Order of the North Star, or Polar Star Order as it's called as well, but also Belgian, Italian, Dutch state orders. He also was an honorary doctor at the universities of Dublin, Gettysburg, Basel of course, Uppsala, and Columbia University in New York. And this is this is the he is one of these gray, you don't see them. And from 1931, he will be the head of economic and monetary policy at the BIS. He is in there from the beginning, but he is then the head. Not the chairman, not the vice president, whatever. He's the real guy, the one that really makes the decisions. So of course he worked together then 4 years with McKittrick, and he's probably one of the most let's call it that, have affected the world economy actually as a one man, just from the BIS. And when he finished at the BIS in 1956, he is the head of the International Monetary Fund in Washington. And he stuck with the IMF until he died in 1963. So this is a guy to remember. That's some Swedish men to know about. That's the headline. Please bookmark it. And it's not a very long article. The other one is also working here in the IMF, and his name is Ivar Roth, almost as in growth, but root. He takes care of the Swedish central bank, the first central bank in the world. 1668, I think everybody knows that now. If you don't know it, we can say it again. The first central bank in the world ever is the Swedish central bank. That's the first. And the second one is the Bank of England with inside the City of London. The City of London is formed by the Viking William the Conqueror. And William the Conqueror simply was involved in retaking the British Islands. After the Romans left, it was Viking all over the place. And then they had a little bit of a messy time, and they lost a little bit of the control, and then they just took it back again. And he's a straight-on descendant to Richard of Normandy, aka Rollo, the William the Conqueror. So we get the story straight there. And in that bloodline, same. Elizabeth I, many generations later, the year 1600, she grants the East India Company to be formed. And that will grow on to the largest ever military, naval military or operation ever in private hands. It's the beginning of the military industrial complex and so on. And her counterpart, or the East India Company's counterpart, you could say, or the Swedish, which is then having their most powerful time conquering Europe, making peace treaties in 1648, which will be the springboard to the national states and to banking control a little bit later on. And this Axel Oxenstierna guy, we will do a whole space about just him and his achievements, which is more or less leading up to where we are today. He's the number one oligarch ever. He's like the mastermind behind the oligarchist plan that we still are in. I would say he's the mastermind behind this. He managed to do a whole lot of stuff during his period of time. And the world's first central bank, he's dead when it forms, but it is placed in his old resident house, which or a very big one, of course, so the world's first central bank is more or less in honor or planned, I don't know, is placed in Axel Oxenstierna's resident big house in the Swedish capital of Stockholm. Worth noticing. And you will find out, if you dig into this, that in IMF, World Bank, Bank for International Settlements, you will find this very tightly to the Wallenberg dynasty connected people all the time. It will look a little bit like that in governments all over. And as I said, the second central bank, 1694, under the grant of William III, I think, is formed. But it's the opposite way around when it comes to honorable citizens of the US. Number one, back in the day, Winston Churchill. Number two, honorable citizens of the US, Raoul Wallenberg. That's the cousin of the brothers, the guy who allegedly, saved all of this. And you have probably seen the movies and so on. The history will tell maybe a little bit different story. He was also agent, and maybe he did some nefarious things as well. Well, it doesn't really matter. Guess who gets Raoul Wallenberg in as the second ever honorable citizen in the US, and this is in the 1970s, I think. Joe Biden. That is a piece of history. So that is Joe Biden's, maybe his greatest achievement is that he gets the second honorable citizen of the United States. The number 2 is Raoul Wallenberg.
Raoul Wallenberg. I thought you said Joe Biden.
Yeah. And just...
That's exactly who he said. Yeah, he said Joe Biden. Yeah. Yep, that's right.
Yeah. And just by accident, Joe and Hunt...
Can't make this up. It's crazy.
You can't make this shit up. So Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, guess where they have their offices when Biden is not, president or whatever he is. They have their office spaces, rent office, so to speak, in the House of Sweden, which is the Swedish and Icelandic embassy in Washington, D.C. This is where Hunter have, some parties and underage girls, and, there are photos and so on. So there's nothing to discuss about this. Nefarious activities from Hunter. And Joe also has his office there when they are sort of in between. I'm just saying, you can't make shit up. So, and of course, he is from Delaware, aka New Sweden, the first state with the first laws, with the first. Well, there is some connections there, and of course, everybody keeps their companies in Delaware because it has like a zillion companies written on a few addresses, for tax reasons and so on and so on. However, not Elon. He has moved his companies out of Delaware. With regards of Brian's favorite topic with the companies and what they are doing.
Where did Elon move out to? Go ahead, Brian.
Texas.
Texas. Oh, the Texas Star.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. He went out to Texas. At the same time, Mr. Jeff Bezos has turned his hands back to his baby project. 20 years ago, he started the Blue Origins project in Miami, or there in Florida, rather. But yeah, he's went back home too since then. So, Mr. Mauditz, this is really profound because right here in the 50s, Lyndon Baines Johnson. We're talking about one side of the story, one aspect. I love this because getting to spend time with you before in the historical space, I got to learn so much about the things that we had never heard about. I'm just curious how some of those hands touched in the 50s there. Lennon coming into the 60s, because we're in that time frame. A few assassinations happened, but Lyndon Baines Johnson is forwarded one of the biggest fronts of all time, right? So he brought in Medicaid and Medicare, and the Fair Housing Act, which, they worked that deal out with Trump and the Trump organization at the time. That says that they shook hands on it. So, what's the parallel there? What's the parallel there? Because we are Joe Biden, won the award. That's so funny. That's so funny. But he's been in office 50 years. So where? Oh my God. I want to say the Raytheon MIT. Okay, MIT. When does John Trump and many of these players? I mean, we're telling a great story here. We're telling a great story, but we're doing a great disservice. We're doing a great disservice, I think, because we're telling just about major heads. We're not talking about how this corruption actually happened, the hands that it touched, and where that those things, everything that's been done is what's brought us to here, and to keep going further only completes our demise and the destruction of it. So, you know, for the time that we have, sometimes asking a question can be the hardest darn thing, you know, really it is. Where exactly are we going with this? I was looking at, you know, the centralization, the first ever centralized bank. Well, we're looking at new measures going all around. I looked over I sat in the other day with one of the SEC lawyers, previous SEC lawyer, and we read the fifth 21 that they just passed, and there's so many inconsistencies, and it's as though they, you know, like kind of done like they do in the FISA courts. They just take from this law and that law and wherever they want to, and just kind of arrange a document together by copy and paste. And they didn't. They kind of really don't even have to read over it, you know. Wow, man, this is killer. You stopped in the 50s there, right? Right around in the 50s, 56 to 60, right?
Yep. Well, then we have, of course, also the in the early 50s we have the Bosch affair, the American Bosch company. We have the American IG.
Yes.
All of these things.
IG.
Yeah, the IG Farben. We have Swedish IG, we have American IG, and these are then, I think, 100% connected.
I think one of the biggest things that we're missing here, that I think I'd asked you before, but I want to find out more about, and maybe we should discuss, or maybe another time's fine. But the AT&T. So AT&T and their long lines, at the time, the early 1900s, they gave up one of their main facilities. I think actually they bought out a battery company, a battery storage, like a Duracell. Oh my God, I forgot where I was going with that. But they flipped that and turned it over, and now we're witnessing these mergers and stuff that are going on now. In the 50s, though, when I don't even know how I want to ask that question. I'm sorry. Listen, keep talking through the history some. I'm going to take a minute to think about that one. This is getting tough where we're at right here, because a lot's fixing to happen where you're at in the history, and it's just killer to me, man. I wish that we could run not parallel time. I wish that we could run profiles side by side and see. You know, it's amazing to me. I've run so many profiles side by side in these timelines. It's just it's incredible. So
that's why
we're only tell half the story.
Yeah, of course. This has to be divided up. But that is why we always stick with the you know, the banking will always be involved. So the banking is more or less the foundation we are standing on, because that one you can follow and you can see what is happening. This is why this if you check out in the articles, very short articles about Per Jakobsson and Eva Roth and these people, but they are the original gangsters when it comes to the economic. Well, they are the original economical hitmen, so to speak. You will find them interesting.
Follow the money. Follow the money.
Yeah.
Diop has his hand up.
Yeah, go ahead.
The oppressor.
Oh, hello. Sorry, I didn't hear.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, I just switched the headphones. I don't know if anyone heard what I was saying, but I don't know how to put the information into the pill. I'm very solution based. I understand.
Oh, I did put it up there.
Have you
I put it up
posted
there.
it?
Understand all the great talk, but it's just talk after talk after every day. I like to discuss how we get to a solution. So first is to take whatever double information that they provide us in the same way that they use, real information against the people, the folks on this line and every other conscious space, real consciousness, not this fake woke left nonsense. You take those documents, put yourself in proper person, and then we get busy with the pen. But we first have to discuss exactly the meat of the documents and what they have to present, how they're being used in banking, in the school, so-called school educational system, in the so-called, FDA Food and Drug Administration system. And then we can, after we say, all right, here's our bullet points, here's what we need to attack, here's who we need to attack, then we can formulate an attack plan. But I just wanted to share that.
Before you can do that, you have to reach out to as many as possible, just to realize/comprehend the simple fact that the oligarchs are creating money out of thin air, and we are selling our time for and to them for the.
Indeed, my friend, we got that again.
Yeah,
solution.
I
What
know
is
that.
the solution? Solution.
Well,
hold, Mr. Mott. D, if I might just add, they're not looking for a solution, sir. We're all about solution. Or, well, I'm not completely about solutions, because solutions are good, but they can come and go. One solution can outweigh another one, right? So maybe we just hadn't found the best one yet. But honestly, I don't think they're looking for a solution. They're still looking for idiots.
Yep.
People that just play along to keep furthering it. So as we're looking for solutions and we're not getting anywhere, they don't want us to get anywhere. They're getting somewhere.
That's what I'm talking about.
Only
speaking on us,
from the
people.
Idiots.
What are our solutions? Clearly, they don't have solutions. They're the enemy.
Kennedy provided us with that. The folk dollar, the treasury dollar, put out by the treasury for the people. 4.6 billions were out, and then he also were out.
Well, I'm not against the dollar. I know there's a lot of people against the dollar. I'm not against. I actually like the dollar. It's actually done really well, I think. There's a lot of corruption, bad people that use a dollar wrongly. Now, we can go after those people and lock them up or do rid of them, but the fact that they're trying to change everybody else to get on some type of new currency so that they don't have to be held accountable for the old currency problems is not working.
The old currency problem is
it's still the currency problem
today.
And even with the new system, it's going to continue to be the problem. Let me ask you this. Let me throw this one. I'm gonna bait both of you with this one. Let me prop it up decently. I think the next biggest thing that we're looking at that's going to be killer to us, absolutely kick our asses. Let me say it that way. Yeah. Private credit, Mr. Mott, it's so easy to delist off the stock exchange and go from publicly traded to private. So there's an emerging asset class that has grown from around 250 billion since 2010 to about $2 trillion today. A private asset class. Yes, that's went from $250 billion since 2010 to about $2 trillion today, and is set to expand by double-digit percentages in the coming years. The private credit market consists of private loans made by funds to private-owned companies with money originating from sources like pension funds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
This one
Insurance companies.
this one we can recognize.
Right.
That's
right. Yeah. Insurance companies and endowments, and foundations.
Yeah.
Yes.
That scam has already failed once here in Mordor, epically. So they had to sort of, they had to steal all the pension funds back in the day, some years ago. It is, anyways, it is, at the end of the day, it's quite simple. The private banks are not the ones that should issue the monetary means in any country.
Well, see, the problem is in situations like this, money can be syndicated, not necessarily just payment style, which is funny. Money that is lent out is funded through, like bank deposits, or is syndicated among a group of investors, right? Like we just saw. One good example is like we saw not Janet Yellen, the former got together a group to buy TikTok, a group of investors. So it's the same that applies here. It's no difference. It's the exact same thing, and we watched it, but nobody really caught it. In the aftermath of the banking crisis, 2008, you remember, the Fed drove interest rates to zero.
Yeah.
Driving all the players in the market to compete, right, for the same small number of assets that had any yield, any. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact.
Yeah, of course they do that. The only problem is that we are heading for a default. Usually, back in history, it started out that you default in the local region every 7th year. And as time moves along, it turns to be once in a man's age. And now we are still where you have city-states. You don't really have nations and so on. Nations is a pretty new thing, as I said before. This comes after Axel Oxenstierna's peace treaty of Westphalia 1648. Then this kind of, psyop, get your free soldiers, go to war for the nation thing. That one develops quite quickly in the 1800th century after this, together with, of course, the first central banks. But do remember when we exit the First World War, we have 23 central banks. The Russian Revolution comes at more or less not in the middle of it, but at this point in 1917. In 1920, Lenin puts a central bank in Russia, which will later become the Soviet Union. And also prior to, or in the same year, more or less. Also a kickback of 500 tons of confiscated, stolen, Bolshevik stolen gold that goes to Sweden and then disappears. And it's re-stamped with the Swedish insignia and so on, the gold insignia of the Swedish government, which is also very strange because this is private business actually. But yeah, you can. That's 500 tons of gold in a kickback to that lands in Stockholm. Nobody else were doing business with the Russians that kind of way. But it is a long story.
Kind of why I brought up private credit.
So
yeah.
So in the last 3,000 years or so, we have defaulted locally, and with the kind of information flow. And then we get to Bretton Woods, and of course later on Nixon and releasing the gold standard. And from that it goes really crazy. The thing is that the world population has risen 4.5 times during this to backfill this Ponzi scheme. And that we have to live with. So that's sort of the prerequisites for where we are today. And to be able to do this, you need to have you need to put the central bank in every country, and there you have all of these endless wars or flag revolutions. That is to push in. So you remember the end of First World War, 23 in total, and it's more or less the big banks that is the aftermath of the East India Company. That is the core and of the Swedish 30-year war and the Peace of Westphalia. Those banks are the core that will pop up. Also including the Fed, of course, or actually the Treasury. But yep. So as we sit here and speak, there are just a handful of countries that don't have a central bank connected to the Bank for International Settlements. They have been busy. That is about 200 of them. So any BRICS countries are getting out of that system as we speak. That is probably one of the largest shifts, at least in the financial history of the world ever. And the default for the Fed dollar is scratching at the door, at least I would say now. What do you say about that, Brian? Do you agree?
I do. Somewhat, yeah.
So taking this with, creating money, there is actually bonds involved in that, not war bonds, but the creation of money in the fractional reserve banking, we could call it. It is more or less, writing IOUs and aka bonds, and then print money to make it seem, trustworthy in some aspect, at least. There's a piece of paper with. So that is the short way of describing a bond, actually.
It started wartime, right, with the IOU.
Yeah. So war bonds is a little bit different, though. I read an article the other day or some months ago about that the British actually were paying out their war bonds from the Second World War now. If you had your receipts. It took them
it's
Now
funny
to who they would give the money to.
well, they were taking it's not just that they were making that out of thin air too. The war bonds were actually based on people and the interest of it's like taking the same way that they take bets on political outcomes. They also can take bets on small wagers in a war. All right, they'll wage a war just to corner out one section of a portion of something, which makes perfect sense because nobody thinks that that's logical. But if all you're after is one little piece and you start one big war and you get the little piece and nobody actually notices that because of everything else that went on, and that's way later when they actually find out that's what happened, it doesn't matter anymore. So the need in private banking here or private funding, that's generated out of people. They wanted to get ahead of us being able to tokenize or mint anything before they would release this. They wanted to get ahead of us, way ahead of us, because really the same thing that they're trying to do digitally, the digital tokens, digital coins, digital currency. You do that in real life anyway with real money, but people have interest. You generate interest out of people, and if people are doing well or a good business, then a bank can print money for them that based out of their interest and what that interest is moving. So the fact that they just wouldn't allow. Because anybody, like right now, they're saying that anybody can you can tokenize your stuff. You can set up your stuff right now and work this out right now. Well, we could have done that all along. We could have, and they knew that, and we knew that. They wouldn't let us do it. They've been working everything into these positions and corners, to work it into a certain specific way, which none of us have ever agreed. No,
of course not.
They've just relied on time.
Yep, it's been played smart, and Woodrow Wilson sort of put the nail in that coffin when the Titanic had to submerge. Titanic/Olympics had to submerge, and the Fed could emerge. And as soon as the Fed was emerged, well, there you go, First World War, and yeah, it is, and that's a stepping stone to the League of Nations, to the Bank for International Settlements. The Bank for International Settlements is a bank set up solely with one purpose, and that is to be the central bank of central banks. But that was not the framework it was used from the beginning. From the beginning, it was to handle the reparations, putting more or less Germany out of order after the First World War, which they were pretty much not really, well, they became a part of it, but they were not really, they were not really in on it, actually. So strange days. Talking about that, the free banking era under Jackson, I think, is the closest to a dash for the cash, as it says in Nasdaq, Brian. Would you say to what you are describing?
Yeah, somewhat.
And
yeah, continue on. I'll say on. Yeah.
And then, of course, we have these two gentlemen. We have JFK in 1963 trying to abolish the Fed dollar or compete with it with his setup with the folk dollar, we could call it, the people's dollar.
That I thought more or less was the entire key was to set up a dollar to compete with the Fed, not to get rid of it, but that we would compete with our Fed as a backing, and the Fed would actually turn out to be the backer bank, which would have been the better position, and instead of what we have now.
Then the people would have, that was Treasury versus Fed, actually. And that was what JFK wanted. We can see Gustav III. He tried the same in Sweden. He also was killed, murdered by actually, a setup, a loan shark, we could call him, a monetary guy. They were choosing, to commit it because he was, put out of business by Gustav III. There are similarities, you could say. If you go up against the oligarchy control over the monetary, you will be in trouble. You could easily state that, and that's not. You will be in trouble. You will be dead. But this time around it's a little bit different. So let's hope that we can solve this riddle out. I'm gonna say something that is of some importance here. In 1670, besides what the East India Company were granted prior to that, to under the doctrine of discovery and all of these things that they were granted by Elizabeth I, and Charles I made really no difference. But Charles II, he grants the East India Company just 2 years after the world's first central bank is up and running. He grants them the ability to mint money, and that is the key for the East India Company putting out what will be the original sort of central banks, which exist without the Bank for International Settlements. But the Bank of International Settlements has to be in place to control this, and also to be the counterpart of the IMF and also actually the World Bank, to make it look trustworthy or believable. But really, it's just smoke and mirrors. It's a grandiose scam. It's a grandiose Ponzi scheme, and very well executed. But nevertheless, it still is a Ponzi scheme.
Well, yes, you're right. And it's mostly because there's nothing up front. Where we're dealing in the public sector, we see many things that don't line up, many inconsistencies, and why. I'll point out one thing. I'm going to go right back to that private banking. As in, best way to explain this, is as investors want more of it, private banking, the warnings grow louder. Here recently, the UBS chairman, Cone Killer, said there was clearly an asset bubble going on in the private credit. What it needs is just one thing to trigger a fiduciary crisis.
Yeah.
Okay. The IMF also warned here recently that the market needs more scrutiny due to, I think they called it like liquidity demands, as well as the quality of borrowers. I think it was J.P. Morgan's Jamie Dimon weighed in on it, who's getting ready to step down. He noted there may be a problem. There may be problems there. I don't think it's. He said I don't think it's systemic, right?
Yeah.
And the
that is that
right.
is so blatant, but okay.
That's so blatant. Yeah,
Yes.
to contemplate they're contemplating investing up to $200 billion in private credit deals off its balance sheets. That's so friggin' bad. I could tear the entire bank apart.
There is something else. As per the 11th of March, which I thought it should be the 12th, the day they killed Krieger, or allegedly he took his own life, but he for sure didn't. The 12th or the 11th, the sort of this kind of emergency loans were ended at the Fed. So the private banks owns the Fed through the oligarchy, and then they have been just pumping in trillions in their private banking sector as loans, and they should be repaid to the Fed, which they never will be. But at least it's ended, and the private bank should pay back. And I assume that they will have quite a large problem with that, and that is the kicker when this will, sort of kick off. It's been very quiet on that. I will actually go on. Anyways, we have breaking news that we need to take. I think many people are jumping in and out of spaces now. There was a verdict, but no jail time for Mr. Trump. So
the verdict is a guilty verdict. Guilty, no jail time.
Yeah. And so theater, yet again, we could summarize that.
Yep. That's kind of what I felt like, that it would be just no jail time, but they'd convict him of it. And that won't stop anything, right? It's just, what do they call them? White collar crimes, they call it didn't hurt a thing, did it? Oh, boy.
No, it's
always very theatrical.
Yeah.
It was theater.
Yeah, I totally agree, Tish. It's theater. Just as the wars. That's why it's called a theater. Though it's real actors, and they are mainly infantry that is dying. And infant is somebody that is not developed yet. Nobody below the age of 27 should even ever never go near any kind of military missions, because the brain is not developed enough. That's why it's called infantry. But that's well, sidetracked. So if we stick to the situation, we have what Brian described earlier. We have been in the round one of the spaces. We have gone through every banking era in the US, which is very intense because it shifts. It's a continuous war, but it's lost when the Fed pops up. It's lost. It was lost already 1871, as we had in the previous space, but it took them, a while. And this is also significant. When the 1871 is done, they just end the East India Company. Boom, 1874, gone, vanished. Nothing. It just goes, poof, seemingly nowhere. But in reality, it will be IG Farben. Same interests, reshapes to IG Farben. And that will later on, a little bit later on, be the BIS, the paperclip operation, and the Fed in a good combination. And these days we have Investor, Vanguard, and BlackRock running this shit show. Everybody is dependent on these three. Let's call them trusts or companies. Doesn't really matter. and they are in cohorts with each other, of course. So that's the way it looks. And then you have the banks and the stock markets as a sidekick, but it's same people on those. The Wallenbergs owns and control Nasdaq, and also then by that also the platform for the 150 stock markets, including the FX market. They have access/control over every digital dollar or whatever currency digitized in the stock markets. They have that under control, or had. Nobody knows these days, but that's the way it looks when it comes to that. And then you have the banking cartels or hegemonies that have gone from being, sort of a bit European, a bit American or whatever, to just one big chunk of evil banksters running our lives, creating money out of thin air and debt. And this is what we need to get away from. And I think we are stepping in that direction with the BRICS countries and the way that they are setting up that. And Russia and some other countries have already done it with regards of a central bank, their local currency controlled by a central bank, controlled by the elected people, controlled then by the people in some way or fashion. It is at least a way forward. Then if it's going to be digital or paper or whatever, doesn't really matter. We are all countries are almost digitized to the brink of it. Even if it looks quite different in different countries. Of course, Sweden is the bad example here. No discussion about that. 1% cash. The rest is just digital confetti debt, the other 99%. So, in essence, we hardly have any cash. They are gone, which make us very sensitive for any kind of, digital disturbances, which we see almost every day here now. We have problems in different areas. With that said, Tish, we're
up. It's time to close down the space, guys. Thanks for coming. We're gonna meet every day. Oh, is it 20 minutes? Is it in 20 minutes, Mr. Mott?
One more time, Tish. I couldn't hear you. You were rubber banding.
Is it in 20 minutes you wanted to close down? I think I read the message wrong.
Yeah, 10:20.
Sorry.
Something like that. So please grab a mic.
Retweet the space. Yeah, grab a mic if you'd like. Scoldum.
While we're waiting on any of that, Mott, did you see the new investors? So the Investors Week, it's been going on, a lot of events going on this week. So XAI, so it showed Kathy Wood bought a stake in XAI. Did you see that?
Nope. I'm trusting on you for acquisitions and mergers.
Oh, well, that's not an acquisition. Well, it might be a slight merger, yeah, but yeah, these rapid changing events right now. Just it's incredible. It's incredible. Let me see. Where's that? No, not Nelson Peltz. Nelson Peltz is a complete sellout. Nelson Peltz, Disney, Walt Disney, he sold out for $1 billion in his position. Let me see. Where did I see that at? Hold on. That's going to get me, see it. Okay, yeah, Kathy Woods, ARK, acquires stake in Elon Musk's XAI. Popular investor Kathy Woods, ARK Investment Management, has reportedly purchased a stake in tech billionaire Elon Musk's artificial intelligence startup XAI. Woods' ARK Venture Fund revealed the stake in an email to clients Tuesday. Bloomberg News reported the matter, stating that the investment represents about 2% of the funding's holdings. Musk's artificial intelligence startup XAI raised $6 billion in a Series B funding round, reaching a post valuation of $24 billion. SpaceX ARK has disclosed a position in Microsoft-backed OpenAI recently also. That made up roughly 4% of the holdings. The closed-end interval fund also has a stake in Amazon-backed AI firm Anthropic. It's just, it never ceases to amaze me just how in touch they all are. Wow.
Yeah, like horse and carriage. I put that one in the Jumbotron, Brian, with the one that you were referring to now.
Yes, it's actually it's quite interesting, everything that's going on. Homeland Security, is cracking down on customs brokers used by Temu. So they're cracking down in all kinds of ways. They're fixing to, they've asked Elon Musk and Meta, X and Meta, and the platforms to go through and look for anti-Semitism. That's fixing to roll back around real hard, and I expect there'll be a lot of accounts to be shot to pieces. I think. I might be wrong, but based on a lot of the talks that's happened here recently about the Jews, that might become an issue.
We have the same here. It runs really deep here. It's very strange. We have big press conference today with Swedish Justice Minister, the security police, and the ordinary police as well. The big bosses there. And it's all about, Jews and Israel getting threatened by Iranian intelligence to the ordinary hoodlum gangs, drug dealing gangs or whatever, the networks that we have here. It's quite strange, actually, very optic. But it is all about the Israel-Jewish thing, and they should, doesn't really add up, but let's see where it takes us. It's a lot of optics. I listened to the press conference just prior to this. Quite interesting.
Well, let's listen to this. This is quite interesting. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency has suspended SECO Logistics, SECO, SECO Logistics, participation in the Entry Type 86 program for 90 days. The information reported Wednesday. Section 321 Type 86 of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Regulations allows for shipments with a value less than $800 expedited entry into the U.S. A lot of people didn't even know that. I know many of these things, but it's hard to talk about it all. They limit our talk time so much, and you can only get out so much at one time, before people start getting annoyed, right? So, but I'm going to lay this one out quickly here. The Type 86 program allows importers to capitalize on a centuries-old law. It's called de minimis, which exempts packages with a value less than $800 from custom duties, with millions of packages shipped each year. The savings are tremendous. That's right, tremendous for both sides, any company. But lawmakers have been stepping up pressure on government agencies to stifle de minimis shipments from China, as the exemptions may not undercut U.S. manufacturers, but can indirectly result in the use of forced labor as fast fashion companies, struggle to keep up with furious demands. So that's becoming a thing. The old Type 86 program might be getting some reworkings in its bowels for a change, knowing that the private customs could always run through a certain amount before anything was checked. All they had to do was secure their people. Anybody else was just fair competition, right? So they're marching through it. The things that we've always known, they're finally putting some kind of, like I said before, though, at what price? At what price are we getting this? So finally, we're starting to see something, but we've lost both arms, both legs, and our balls at least. We won't be able to reproduce anything, but I guess we can look at it and think about it, right? Talk about it.
Lots of interesting stuff on your timeline, Brian. I would say so. Give Brian a follow, everybody, if you want to be updated on. You are doing good work now. I'm liking your timeline more and more. And of course, the comfort model will come up in that's a good old one.
Yeah, sorry about that. It kind of has this way of just staying pinned to the top of my profile.
Nice. we actually, as we saw some stuff mentioned about along those lines, because Bombadil is coming back. He's making a grandiose comeback.
Oh, I've seen that. Yes, that's gonna be awesome.
And do you know what?
Yeah.
Vanity Fair of all magazines did a hit piece on him. A hit piece.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
A hit piece.
Oh my!
Trying to.
I'm gonna have to look up that one so
it's on my timeline. It's on my timeline.
I'll check it out.
I will share it to the space, because this is really strange what is happening. All these things. So now we have.
You damn right, boy. That's strange.
Let's see if I find it. Please, Mr. Bombadil. There you go. Yeah. Take a look at it, my dear friends. It's in the Jumbotron, and I will also put it in the bubble. These are strange days. There is also included in that article. There are video clips of what could be a better interpretation. We didn't get to the bounds. Not enough, but we touched them at least. So I'm getting a bit tired here. Got an early start tomorrow. What do you say, Tisha? Are we done for today?
Yeah, let's close up for today. We'll see everybody back on next Thursday. We'll send out an update. And if you have any questions, feel free to DM anybody. Follow each other, if you don't mind.
Of
Thanks for
course.
coming, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mr.
everybody.
Mott. Thank you,
Thank you,
Secretary. Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
We will dive into the bounds, which will be related to the central banking system next time around, and some others. But I thought that the Gladio was, a little bit up for grabs now, because the Gladio is a hot topic on the spaces, and I just wish to give the solid background of it, and there is quite a chunk of reading from the secretary as well. So please don't forget to bookmark, follow the secretary, and dig into it. And next time, more banking, more bounds, more, let's call it, economical hitman history, because there are some nefarious things done in the. We sort of ended up in the 50s with regards of that, but we still have some revolutions and world war that we have not gone through by the book. So we will just keep on pushing forward. See you next Thursday. Take care, everybody. Thank you, co-host. Thank you, host.
God bless. Good night, all.